British police officers have been told to embrace the label woke. What's going on?
Well, it's a good question, because what they're clearly not being told to do is go out there and fight crime. They're being given anti-racism training, and they're being told that if they think that this anti-racism training is going to see them being labelled as woke, then they should just embrace that and go with it. I mean, clearly nobody wants the police to be racist, and certainly I don't want the police to be going around targeting people because of their skin colour or anything like that. But I think what most of us want the police to be doing is actually catching criminals, and catching criminals irrespective of their skin colour. And nobody has a problem with the police really having training in anti-racism. But the question is what kind of training they're getting. And central to this training is they're being told basically that any racial discrepancies, any kind of where one ethnic group is seen to be kind of out of proportion to another ethnic group is a problem. But you can't really go about fighting crime in that way. It means you're fighting crime with one hand tied behind your back. You're always looking at skin colour, and you're left thinking, well, you know, have we stopped and searched too many black people this week? Have we perhaps questioned too many brown skin coloured drivers? Have we pulled over too many white people? And you can't police properly if you've got one mind on skin colour. You've got to be looking at who's committing the crimes, not what colour skin they've got. So it seems to me that this does make policing woke, and the problem with it is not that they need to embrace it, it's that they need to ask themselves why they're not busy spending their time catching criminals rather than messing about with these things, looking at people's skin colour.
Abimbola Johnson, chairwoman of the scrutiny panel. What is this? That sounds terrifying. Chairwoman of the scrutiny panel that will hold forces to account over the plan, expressed disappointment that officers refused to say whether policing was institutionally racist as they launched the initiative. Johnson, who was appointed after Black Lives Matter demonstrations in Britain in 2020, said officers should be comfortable with being called woke.
Yeah, do you know what? That's the classic catch-22 that woke tricks people into, and particularly around issues to do with racism. So this big thing, like, you know, are you going to say that you're institutionally racist? They can't win on that one. So I'm not surprised they didn't answer it, because if they say, you know, yes, we are institutionally racist, then it's like, oh my God, what are you doing? Why are you institutionally racist? We better fire you all. We better recruit a whole load of new police officers, send you on a load more training sessions. You're clearly doing something very wrong. But if they say, no, we're not institutionally racist, then by definition of the kind of woke mantras, they are racist, because they're not admitting to all their innate prejudices. So I think if anybody asked me that question, I would avoid it too, because like I say, it's one that you just cannot win in the eyes of these woke people.
It is unfalsifiable, some of the things that get put forward. You think, I'm damned if I do, I'm damned if I don't. And silence is both violence and compliance. So it's not even as if I can't choose to not engage in this discussion. Everything, every single different approach that you could have to that, and disappointment in not agreeing to what you said that you wanted it to be from the scrutiny overlord or whatever she's called.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's like that classic thing that you used to do when you were a kid, when you tossed a coin, you know, heads I win, tails you lose. They can't. They've completely stacked all the cards in their favour, so that whatever arguments are put forward, they think they can win. So, I mean, if you try and challenge this idea that we've got an institutionally racist society with statistics, if you say, actually, look, you know, look at what's going on in education, look at who's getting the best exam results, you know, look at who's most disadvantaged in education, for example, or, you know, look at who's going to university, who's getting jobs, and point out that there aren't all these ethnic or racial disadvantages that people are making out, then they say, oh no, you can't just use statistics. You've got to talk about people's lived experiences. You've got to look at how Black people are actually experiencing racial inequalities and racial disadvantages. Now, there might be some truth in that. I'm not saying it's never worthwhile to consider people's lived experiences, but the problem is, you see, when some Black people come along and actually they say, do you know what? No, there isn't all the racism that you're describing. I don't feel as if I'm at a constant advantage. Suddenly, you find they're the wrong kind of Black person, that their lived experience doesn't count. It's only some people's lived experiences, the people who are saying the right things, the people who are going along with what these woke scrutiny committees want to hear. It's only their lived experience that actually counts.
Is it not funny that the broadest group of people that seem to be pushing this aren't part of the racial groups that they're supposed to be defending? That, I mean, we saw this in America, right? That when the defund the police thing came around, that if you actually surveyed a lot of Black communities, that they said that they wanted more policing because it was their children that were going to be injured. Do you know Mary Harrington from Unheard?
Yeah.
So she came on the show and she told me this story about the introduction of the pill in the 1960s increased the number of single mothers. And the dissolving of chivalry norms around not hitting women, holding the door open, being sort of kind and gentle and a protector and a provider, that these disproportionately hurt women from working class backgrounds, but they were being pushed by middle class women. We're emancipating women from the tyranny of the patriarchy. We don't need to have the door held open for us so that men can stare at our behinds as we walk through. And what you actually look when you see the stats, it suggests that some women that were in societies and social classes that maybe needed more constrained norms in order to assist men that perhaps didn't have the same level of education or role models in terms of what is and is not acceptable behavior around women, they were the ones that were disproportionately affected by this policy that was being pushed by somebody that never had any idea about what was going on at the coalface, so to speak. And it kind of seems to me that it's similar with regards to policing and policies around that a lot of the time the policies that are being pushed forward aren't being pushed forward by people that are in the communities that they're actually affecting. And if you ask them, they might not want what is being promoted.
Definitely. And I think the best example of that is with all the different views around trans activism. If you look at most transgender people, certainly most transgender people who I know, they actually just want to have a quiet life. They don't want to be a political football. They just want to, in the words of the classic kind of J.K. Rowling tweet, they just want to dress however they want and be left to get on with living their lives however they see fit, same as everybody else. But the number of people it seems to me the people who are like the most vocal transgender activists are not actually transgender themselves. They're kind of taking it on board to act on behalf of this community, on behalf of these other people, in ways that actually a lot of transgender people don't appreciate and don't want. And they've ended up with their entire kind of life being politicized, something they've not asked for. And this is people who are not transgender who've done this for them. But, just going back to what you're saying in relation to feminism, I mean, one of the things that I really object to with contemporary feminism is the way that it constantly seems to bang on to women that they're victims, that they're really at a disadvantage. And I think that's what I see a lot in critical race theory, politics around race as well nowadays. And certainly if I was Black and the mother of Black kids, this idea that the message goes out that you're at an inherent disadvantage no matter what you do, the odds are stacked against you, the world's a hostile place, everybody's racist, society's just out to get you. It's just like, what a message to give to kids, whether that's to give to Black kids, gay kids, girls. It just seems like the number one thing of identity politics is telling people, certain groups, that they're really at a big disadvantage in life. And often, like you're saying, it's not people who are in those groups themselves who are doing that. It's other people coming along telling them, oh, don't you know, everything's going to be really shit for you. And I think that's terrible to tell people that.
That's how we raise up the marginalised. We'll raise them up by telling them that the world is unwinnable. What's happening, people? If you enjoyed that, then press here for the full, unedited episode. And don't forget to subscribe. Peace.